What's going on, guys? Welcome to another episode of Stuff Speaks Radio. Today I have with me Jen Lander, and for some of you guys that may know this, Jen was on the podcast actually a little over a year ago.
Yeah.
So now we're back for round two and we're live. So why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit more about who you are and what you do?
So I always like to start with I'm a mom because it's something I'm most proud of. So I have two sons. I recently entered the having an adult child phase, so my son went off to college this year. So navigating that has been very interesting. And then I have a 14-year-old son. So I'm a boy mom. And then I'm a psychiatric nurse practitioner. So I have the last 7 years worked for a company treating eating disorders in a higher level of care. And I just recently ventured off to open my own outpatient psychiatry practice. So that started in February. So I'm a new business owner and entrepreneur, which I'm so excited about.
We're definitely going to probably have to talk about that too at some point in here because we already know the entrepreneurship conversation. I mean, I talk about that with everyone. But so people know though, where is that going to be open? Because if someone's local listening.
Yeah. Oh, so
or it is open now, but
Yes, it's open. It's called Landing Well Psychiatry. I have an office in Menor, and then I do telehealth too, all through Ohio.
Yeah.
Since
you've kind of like started that, what is kind of like the main things, I guess, that you kind of like work around now with like open up your own practice, or the main things that you see particularly in women?
So I specialize in ADHD. That's something I'm very passionate about. So aside from just seeing people who have ADHD, I see a lot of college age kids and then perimenopausal women. So if you think about college age and having ADHD, and even if it's unmanaged, so sometimes people are coming to me the first time and they've never been treated or have a diagnosis of ADHD, but they're noticing something doesn't feel right. And the systems that they had in place where, you have mom and dad sometimes helping you remind you to do certain things or like get up in the morning, all of those, tasks and stuff. And then they go on their own and they're needing to do all of it. So college is just a different beast where you're really navigating all of the just adulthood, independence type things where you have to actually figure out what you're going to eat and schoolwork and all of those things. So people are coming to me overwhelmed, like what's going on, or they're feeling overwhelmed or stressed. And then on the other side, women who have, they're untreated ADHD for years and they've just been struggling through it. And then they're starting to experience some of those hormonal changes. Yeah. And then as we know, when your estrogen levels start to change, that there's a link between that and your dopamine. So your dopamine levels will drop when your estrogen levels drop. And then all of a sudden they're like, why is what was working before not working anymore? Like some of the ways that they've learned to cope and mask with their ADHD, it's kind of all coming to the surface. So they're reaching out and asking for help. Yeah.
And the thing is too, like, ADHD is so commonly talked about, but very misunderstood. And as someone that works with women all day, every day, I can't tell you how many times the word ADHD gets brought up. And I think a lot of people just either just assume they have it or don't know if they have it, or like, you always hear the joke, oh, it's my ADD, it's my ADHD.
Yeah.
And I would kind of like you to maybe just explain, I guess, kind of what it might look like in women versus men, just to even like understand that. And generally, like, what even is it? Because I feel like some people don't actually know what ADHD is.
Yeah. ADHD is a neurodevelopmental disorder. So you have it from like childhood into, some people still experience pretty strong symptoms into adulthood, even after your brain's fully developed. Everyone, like you're saying, kind of has this play of, oh, it's my ADHD, and they might just be in our society where there's so much distraction and our attention spans are so small, like they're very short,
Yeah.
So that's not necessarily ADHD. It is, people are really struggling with the executive functioning part. So there's a lower baseline of dopamine, and those are things that we're trying to increase and treat in practice when we're working together. But it's really something where people will struggle with either hyperactivity or impulsivity or inattention. And for women, they tend to internalize a lot of their symptoms a lot more than men. And even from a social aspect, we were kind of taught at an early age as women, kind of just be calm, sit still, listen, like pay attention, just be, pleasant and whatever. And it's a little bit more acceptable for men to externally show their symptoms where they're a little more rowdy or disruptive or, they're just boys type of thing, So women or girls, I should really say, learn how to mask a lot earlier than boys. And of course, boys can be inattentive and can internally struggle as well. And it's not all or nothing. Like some women show externally too, but that's the overall biggest difference is women tend to internalize a lot of their thoughts. It's a lot in the mind, racing thoughts and things like that that are happening or trying to organize, and it's all inside.
So that makes me then want to ask you, like, kind of comparing that to, say, anxiety, because I feel like this could get maybe confused if someone's like, do I have ADHD? Do I have anxiety? Do these overlap? Like, do you kind of see that a lot in people, like the confusion between those two things?
Yeah, and even for myself, when I first started seeking treatment, it actually was for anxiety, and that was my go-to thing. I was like, I'm so anxious all the time, and not understanding what I was anxious about. So I try to help people understand that, yes, anxiety and ADHD can co-occur, they can occur together, but I try to ask questions about their history and just do a full assessment on ADHD to see if there's anything there, but also anxiety. So it's important to know what you're feeling anxious about. Like, are you having, like, is it catastrophe after catastrophe? You're just ruminating on certain scenarios, or are you feeling anxious because you're struggling to organize your day and you're feeling so overwhelmed, or, you know, you're trying to focus or study and then that's causing a lot of anxiety, or you're procrastinating, putting things off, or you're not able to start tasks and or finish them and you have a million projects going on, and it's just the overwhelm and the anxiety that comes from that we try to weed out and kind of tease out and figure out where it's coming from. That's the biggest thing, is just having that understanding of what's going on. Is it both? Because it very well could be, or is it one or the other?
Well, and like you even were saying too, like there's just so much distraction and overwhelm in general. Like I feel like too, I mean, talking from entrepreneur, that's one thing. But then we also live in a world that is so full of overstimulation.
Yeah.
And I can't even imagine what it's like working like as you do around that, because one, you're trying to work through people coming in and navigating like whether they have these different things going on. But then we also live in a world where it's like you're bombarded at every angle.
I try to figure out like what people's overall goals are and what their values are, you know, and then we work backwards from there. So if there's a lot of distraction that's kind of going on, it's always going back to what's the goal here? Like, what are we trying to figure out? And then it's also figuring out too, is there something else that's going on that could be medical, that could be causing some of the attention difficulties, or, you know, the distractions and things like that we're like talking through and working out. But for me personally, when it's trying to like focus in and quiet all the noise around me, I really have to have those systems in place where when I started this business, I knew for me that I needed to have the systems in place that worked well for my brain, that could eliminate some of the distractions, which are, you know, the social media, like pick up your phone, scrolling constantly, those types of things. But I don't know if there's something like more specific. I feel like I'm not answering the question. Like,
No, yeah.
How?
Because it's just like there's not even like something specific, just kind of just even having that open conversation, because I feel like there's just always so much going on around us, and like we feel like there's something wrong with us. I feel like a lot of times women feel guilty resting, taking breaks. We don't know just how to like learn how to slow down, what practices we need to put into place. Obviously, sometimes it is just like a matter of if someone is navigating just like really struggling with their own, like whether it is ADHD or anxiety or just other things. I feel like there's this common denominator is like we always just think there's something wrong with us.
It's very difficult for women to slow down, or they feel guilty when they're slowing down because they're tying their self-worth to how productive they can be. So, and we think about the distractions, we think about the to-do list, it's never ending. You can always think of something to do, whether you're a mom, you're a business owner, your job, a wife, taking care of the house. The list goes on. And if you're tying your self-worth to that, when you slow down and you try to rest and you feel guilty, well, that's not very like reinforcing, or who wants to do that? 100%. You know, if you sit with those guilty feelings because of it. And then trying to slow down, aside from it's uncomfortable and you don't want to feel guilty, then it's also that piece of if you have ADHD or you have racing thoughts or anxiety, it's very uncomfortable to also slow down, or you're overstimulated. So slowing down actually feels more comfortable, and you need that kind of distraction that's going on. So it's very difficult. It's super challenging to slow down for a lot of women.
100%. And I think too, sometimes I think it's cool when people can kind of like understand from an angle of like what's happening in the body. And like when we say someone's kind of going in this chronic stress state, but they're not doing the things, or maybe they don't know what to do to kind of like work through that. Like you said, you have your systems in place.
Yeah.
So I guess just kind of like for people to understand, especially like in your line of work, like how might chronic stress affect the brain? Like if we're just kind of like stuck in that for a while.
Yeah, well, chronic stress is keeping your brain in survival mode. Stress is actually a great thing. Like we have a built-in system for stress. It's what keeps us safe. It protects us,
Yeah.
keeps us alive, all those things. But it's only meant to be short term and just a rapid response. And then you're supposed to come back to baseline and just be,
Yeah.
back to whatever you were
Right.
doing before. But if you're constantly stressed out, no matter what it is, what's happening in your brain is that your amygdala, that's your threat detect like part of your brain, it is more activated. And then it's going to shut down the front part of your brain, which we call like the CEO, the one where it's responsible for those executive functionings, planning, prioritizing,
Yeah.
emotional control, all those things. So that part's going to be like, we're going out on a break,
Yeah.
and then your amygdala is taking over. And then you're releasing cortisol, adrenaline, norepinephrine, all of those things into your body. And that becomes very exhausting. So if you're constantly in an activated state where you're looking for threats or trying to detect something, then you're going to become very exhausted. Sometimes sleep can be a real issue. For me, that was a big thing when almost a year ago now, I was in a lot of stress and I was in that survival mode for 4 months. And my sleep was like the first thing to go. And for me, what I had to do, all of the things that were helping before, like breath work is something that's very helpful for me when it comes to sleep, but that was not working for me. I was still doing it, but it just wasn't enough because my mind would not shut off. So I had to reach out to my provider and I actually needed something for sleep. So temporarily, I was utilizing that help and support because if you're in survival mode, you have to rest and you have to restore, especially if it's chronic. Like you need to be focusing on how to restore during those moments. And it's not like you're going to be super creative or, you're not going to be starting things when you really need just rest. So it's trying to rest and heal your body, but it can lead to burnout and all of those different issues that can cause major like health issues too. It puts you at risk of high blood pressure, stroke, all of those things. So it's really unsafe to stay in that state.
If you could go back to that version of you, the one that you said was stuck in survival mode, because I know there's someone listening today that is in that right now.
Yeah.
I've been in it myself. I'm sure we're going to probably get into that a little bit more, me and you, but like if you could go back to that person, I mean, looking back at that part of your life, what would you tell her like when she was kind of going through that? Because I know a lot of people listening, like they might feel like they're just stuck in it and they're drowning in it.
I feel like the way that I approached it at the time, it really is, I kept reminding myself it's going to be okay. Even when I was in my darkest days, because there was a lot of crying, I was not doing well emotionally. And I just kept reminding myself it's going to be okay. You're going to get through this. But what I also had to do was make sure I was taking care of myself and making sure like, okay, at that time I was trying to start my business, but I had to put that on pause because of all the stress that I was under. There was just no way I was going to be able to stay in my full-time job and take care of that, which is, my livelihood. It's how I'm, taking care of my family and build a business on top of it. So I had to take a pause there. And then I was really just focusing on restoring my body. So I was still doing breath work and things like that, but I was just telling myself, either I have to change, like I have to do something about this, or the environment has to change. And the environment's not going to change, so I have to do something and I have to change. So then I'm like, okay, well, what can I do? So I had to make a plan with my husband on next steps, like how are we going to get out of this? Just working with him too to figure out. And he was so supportive at the time as well. He didn't always know what to do.
That's okay.
He was like not always doing the right thing. He was maybe making me a little more stressed sometimes, but he was trying, and that was like the most important thing to me. But I think it's just, I always just go back to it's going to be okay. Like, you can get through this. You just have to put the things in place. And, that's really all I was doing at the time, just surviving, the day to day.
I really want to highlight something you said because it was important to me. And I don't even know if you had realized where you said this, but you said you had to put things on pause to essentially put yourself first. That might seem really simple, but I think that's really difficult for a lot of people. Like, I myself am a big hustler with a lot of things. I kind of make the joke that all I know is grind. That's all I know. I mean, I make a joke. I say this in every single interview, and I do not care, but it's my truth. I've been hospitalized. I've had shingles. I've had all these things with my body because I didn't know how to just say, yo, you need to stop and put yourself first, because I was like, well, all I got to do is I got to keep going. Even if I knew my body was in a chronic state of stress or burnout, whatever may have you, whatever word we want to resonate with here, I was in it. And I think it takes a lot of just power within yourself to be like, no, I need to put something on pause, to put myself first so I can come back stronger in something. There was women's events I was doing for years, about 4 years in a row. They were the one thing that made me so happy. It was the events I was doing, and then this podcast, actually, ironically. But I was overloading myself with so much that I had to make that decision to like put those things on pause. So I took like 2 years off the podcast. I took, right now I've been like off my event stuff for like 2 years that I'm now going to be bringing back soon. But I look back and I was feeling guilt because I was like, well, I should be able to do this. I should be able to do all the things. But in the meantime, I was like burning myself into the ground.
Yeah.
But I think it's just kind of being able to like give yourself grace in those moments. But it's really hard to do that. But it's like, if you don't, you're never going to be able to play catch up with your own self and your own health too.
Yeah. I think a lot of that comes from, because I've been there too.
Yeah.
Like I've thought the same thing, like I should be able to do this. And then I'm like, but why? Like, why should I be able to do this? Is it because I'm scrolling on social media and every time you see something, someone's doing something different and that's their highlight reel and you're like, oh my gosh, they have it all together, and behind the scenes, it's like, no, they probably do not have it all together.
No.
And then you're seeing, like for me, like I'll see these women who are getting up at 5 a.m., cooking their husband's lunch for the day. And then after that, they're doing something else. And then you go to the next reel and it's someone who's starting their own business. So it's the comparison. And I'm like, I need to actually take a pause and stop doing that and comparing, because why should I be taking care of all this stuff when my body is telling me, no, you need a break. Like you have got to stop, because like you said, it leads to your physical health, your mental health, all of those things are being compromised and it's just not worth it. But yeah, I think a lot of it comes from that comparison of what everyone else is doing.
It's true. And the key word you said is the word should. Like we always say that. I have another friend, he's actually a therapist. And I remember a conversation I had with him was always how we so effortlessly use the word should in our vocabulary. Like I should be doing this, or I should have been doing that, whatever may have you. And I feel like there's also this timeline we put ourselves on of things we need to accomplish. And like, that timeline could be real to the maybe a little bit in our own minds, right? Or just maybe other things we're seeing online. But it's like, I've always had this thing with certain things in my life, especially when it comes to like business things and ideas I have. Well, they had to be completed by like this date or this time, or like, oh, I need to make sure that by this point in my life, I'm in this space. And there's a lot of things in my life I did accomplish. There's some things that didn't look the way I thought they would look, or there's some things that I still haven't accomplished yet. And it's hard because I get down on myself, and it's ironic. I just had this conversation actually like yesterday, so this is really relevant. But feeling like by a certain age in my life, there were certain things that I thought would have been checked off the list, or things I would have done, or things I would have been, because I should have done that.
Yeah.
But it's kind of being able to like, kind of like, that's when I kind of like restore my faith in like life and in myself and in God. I'm just like, okay, well, maybe that just wasn't my timeline yet, because it's still something that I'm being prepared for. And there's still some things that maybe I have to go through and figure out before I get to that next thing too.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's such an important piece too, because what I'm hearing when you say this is you have a lot of things that are important to you, and you have goals, which some people really struggle with. What are my goals? What's my purpose? Like, what do I want? And you have a lot of those things.
Yeah.
We have a lot of those things,
Yeah.
and it sounds like you could be hard on yourself.
For sure.
And I'm very much hard on myself.
Yeah.
Like that's something I've had to work through over the years too. I'm much kinder than I was when I was 20 to myself. But I think just over that time, but yeah, it's just trying to put things in perspective. And I like your mindset shift where you're thinking about, okay, maybe it just wasn't my time, because really maybe it wasn't. Like there could be an opportunity or something else that you need to learn to put in place. And I feel like that about a lot of things in my life too, where before I started my business, I had actually wanted to be an entrepreneur for years, but I kept putting that off because I was very comfy in my job. Like it was flexible. It was great pay. I liked the people I worked with, and I just liked the work that I did, but there was also something inside of me that wanted something different. And I kept putting time and effort into things that really weren't moving the needle much. And I'm just like, well, why isn't this happening sooner? Well, because it really wasn't my time. And then I actually, when I ventured off into starting my own practice, it wasn't by my time. Like I got laid off. So it wasn't even a choice, but I think that's the timing too. And I didn't look at it in a way that that's defining me and my identity. It's just something that, okay, now I can actually, it's a door is opening for me. Like I can actually do this something. So I like the timing that the way your perspective is with that. I think that's important.
Like being able to kind of flow with it, because I think it's hard to kind of like trust that though for ourselves. Like, because when you see everything online, you're always going to think yours is wrong.
Yeah.
Unfortunately,
so
we'll think we're doing something wrong because
I
I'm waking up at
know.
5 a.m. making our husband's lunch
I
and
know.
stuff.
I have not done that. Sorry, husband.
It's okay.
I know. I'm like, not.
I'm
prioritizing my sleep. I'm not getting up for that.
I know exactly what you're talking, because I've seen those videos.
Yeah.
That's why I was laughing. It's like I wake up at this time and I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna click snooze.
And I love that for them, though. I think that's something that's so important for them. But I was like, that just isn't for me. I can't do it.
Yeah, girl, I know. There's just so much. It's kind of just like, again, got to go to the beat of your own drum. That's what I always say.
Yeah.
There was a part here that I really want to get into, because I know this is something that I believe you're passionate about, and I would love to have you share on if you're open and comfortable and willing, and kind of open up that conversation around like ADHD, alcohol, like emotional coping, stuff like that. So I guess we can kind of take this wherever you want to go and you feel comfortable, but I would love to kind of learn about the relationship between ADHD and alcohol.
Yeah. So alcohol will temporarily relieve your ADHD symptoms. So how it's working in your brain is that when alcohol hits your brain, you will release something called GABA. And it's way more complicated. I'm definitely no neuroscientist, but I'll just keep it as simple as we can. So you're going to release GABA, which is a chemical in your brain that will help you calm and relax. And then it also will reach your reward pathways, where dopamine is heavily involved there. So then you start to feel like you're in a better mood and you're like more social and things like that. So that's a very good rewarding feeling, like, so your dopamine will increase when alcohol hits your brain. So with that, for someone who there's so much noise in your mind all day long, or you have racing thoughts, or the responsibilities of all the tasks that you have to do, and maybe you haven't completed them and then you're feeling bad or guilty, what alcohol is doing is it's going to slow all that down for you. Like those racing thoughts are going to be much quieter during that time. It kind of takes that responsibility away for an hour or so, where you don't have to think about everything that's going on in your life that either you don't feel proud about or that's just weighing on you. So it's really that relief. And I think a lot of women will turn to that for that specific reason, is they're not really searching for the alcohol. It's the relief that they're looking for.
I did not know that actually at all. Like everything you just explained, like that relationship there. And you were saying, just so I understand, what was it about GABA and dopamine again? You said when you drink it.
So GABA helps you calm and relax, and that will be increased when alcohol hits your brain. And then with dopamine in your reward pathways, it will increase dopamine too when you're drinking alcohol.
So kind of someone that's having those different symptoms associated with ADHD, or maybe even anxiety, maybe even too, I'm assuming.
Yeah, absolutely.
It'll kind of give you the adverse effect. Is that what I'm understanding?
Yeah, it will calm everything down. Alcohol's a depressant, so it's going to slow everything down for you. It's going to slow the way you think. It can interfere with your memory. So if you're drinking a lot, this is where some people can just experience blackouts or something like that, because it's going to interfere with your hippocampus too, which is your memory center. So glutamate will actually, that's another chemical too, that will actually start to suppress, and then it'll be very difficult to try to form new memories, and then blacking out and stuff like that. But yeah, it's a lot of these chemicals are, they're altering how, things are going, but it can be very relieving if you're only having a few drinks or something like that, but not so good if you're having a lot of drinks. So.
Well, this is connecting to me now with different conversations I've had with a lot of people. And, there'll be jokes with different girls that come in the gym with me. And, like, I remember there was one point where I had a client who was just going through a really stressful time. And she would kind of joke about it, but I could tell it kept coming up like, yeah, I just got off work. I just take the edge off. I need to have my glass of wine. And then glass turned into glasses, or wine turned into other things. And, like, it used to just be, like, after work, like, oh, I just want to have a glass of wine. But that kept getting more and more and more. So, like, I guess if you can kind of connect the dots for us, for someone listening, like when someone says, oh, I just have a drink at the end of the day to take the edge off, like what's really going on there?
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of women will do this, and let me connect it to ADHD though, specifically. So
yes.
I'm going to tie it all together if
love
I can.
It. No,
so,
well, I love this. Tell us everything.
So number one, alcohol it's socially acceptable. So it's all around, and it's very accessible. So it's not very hard to, at the end of the day, go down to the store and pick up, alcohol, and it's very effective because you're going to get that relief. So for someone who does have ADHD and they're struggling with those symptoms all day long, then yeah, they're going to that's very reinforcing. They're going to want that relief. They're searching for it. Your brain is craving for that. And then for someone who, like, let's say, because to me that's an unhealthy way to cope with some of your symptoms, but it's also a much easier thing to do than if you have ADHD and you're a procrastinator, or you're putting things off, then thinking about trying to find a provider or making the appointment, scheduling for yourself, showing up to the appointment is much more challenging and hard for someone versus let me just go and I know I'm going to get the relief here by having some alcohol to take the edge off of things. It's a much easier thing to do.
So how do we start to, like, I guess people start to realize that it's becoming more than just like a social thing and like every now and then, like how can someone start to realize, oh, this is actually becoming a problem?
Yeah. Well, I think if you're using terms like, oh, it just takes the edge off constantly, you're looking at that. Like, why am I drinking is what you want to kind of ask yourself. Is it more than socializing? So one of the things I would do, I think is a good example, is I would use alcohol to cope a lot. And it wasn't just a social thing for me. So I remember when I first started doing podcasts and I was a guest, it would give me so much anxiety that I would have a glass of wine before just to kind of calm myself down. And it worked, but it's not the way that I wanted to live my life and cope. But I think overall, figuring out if it's more than a social thing is how often are you doing it? Are you drinking alone a lot? And are you using it to cope with your day or, how you're feeling inside? So.
Yeah. If you're open to sharing a little bit about your personal journey, kind of how did you navigate that in your personal life up until, I guess, present day now where you are?
Yeah, so my drinking was very much like everyone else. It wasn't much different from the friends that I was hanging out with. So a lot of times we would drink on the weekends. It's like, let's golf, drink. Let's go to dinner, drink. Everything. You can make anything a drinking, activity.
Yeah.
So it was a lot of that, and it was mostly on the weekends. And after a stressful week, I was like, like that was my relief too. I was like, I feel like I can just let go of all the responsibilities that I have and just have fun and let loose. It's actually something that I do miss about drinking.
Yeah.
But then there were other times where if something big was going on, I had a lot of anxiety, then I would drink. And I have social anxiety too. So when I am in a group setting, my mind is kind of wandering and I'm having trouble focusing the ADHD part of it on the conversation. Then when I would drink, I felt more present in the conversation. So it was a way that I was coping too. I think, when I decided to stop drinking, that was something that at the time I had said for years that I wanted to cut back and I wanted to not drink so much because when I would drink too much. I wasn't someone that had a limit. Like I always tried. I'm like, okay, only 2 drinks this time, max 4. And I was like, no, I'm having 6 probably. Once I start drinking because once alcohol's hitting my brain, that relief is what I'm chasing. And you become more impulsive too. So I'm a very impulsive person when I'm drinking. And that was just something that, yes, it was fun. I would have a nickname, Fun Jen.
Oh God.
Yeah. So I definitely had a good time when I was drinking, but I didn't like that I didn't have a limit, that I was more impulsive. And then the recovery time was days for me. I even asked a friend one time, I was like, do you feel like anxious and depressed or anything after you stopped drinking? She's like, no, like she felt kind of fine after. And I'm like, okay, well, it's taken me days to recover from this and I'm sick of it.
Yeah.
So it was years before I actually stopped and I was saying, I want to stop. I don't want to drink anymore. But it was a while before I stopped.
I remember you had said this earlier, because you just said it again. You said the relief is what I'm chasing. And I really want to zone in on that because I feel like we don't think about it like that.
Yeah. I mean, that was a major thing for me because anytime I'm in a social setting, I do have a lot of anxiety. And after a full week, it is like when I'm already feeling stressed out and everything, it is that relief, like where you feel more calm and everything gets quiet because my mind will not be quiet. I'm like telling my husband all the time, like, you're not thinking? There's nothing going on up there? Like,
Girl,
what's going on? Because I have not stopped. Like, I've had 10 thoughts in the time that you just got home 5 minutes ago, like just on repeat. So it really does.
Sounds about right.
It is.
Same.
It's just I'm just like, I don't even want to be in my head anymore. Like, I just want that relief. I wanted to quiet down, and that was definitely a way to do it.
I was thinking about this too when you were talking, because I know earlier you had said you see like a lot of college kids and stuff.
Yeah.
And I kind of want to talk about that because I feel like that is relevant. And I actually have worked with clients that actually are college kids as well. And I was in college too at one point, so I can relate to this, obviously. But it's like you think about all the anxiety at that age.
Yeah.
And it's so easily accessible to explore alcohol and to do all these things. And I mean, you're going out, you're meeting new people. Most people are coming and they don't know anyone there. They're meeting new friends. They're, flirting. You're doing all the things. And it just becomes so easy to rely on alcohol in a space where like maybe you're just you're not confident in. A lot of people are figuring out their confidence, and hey, it's going to get even harder with social media now, unfortunately. Doesn't make it easier. But I feel like this is like probably a big thing too, because I do think a lot of people really do struggle with social anxiety. And then even at that age, it's like you're still learning and navigating so much about yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a tricky thing. When people come to see me and they're college age and, they're drinking and stuff,
Yeah.
I wouldn't expect in my hour or 30-minute
Yeah.
meetings every so often that I'm going to have a huge like impact or change. But my
course.
job is to make sure that I'm a comfortable place for them to open up and share those things with me, so that I can also make sure that we're as safe as possible in those situations. But it's never recommended. Like, of course, I don't want you drinking, if you're exploring because you're anxious or you're using it to cope, because things can obviously get worse. But it's my job to explain what can happen and talk them through that, so that they are as educated as possible, so that they can make a decision. But it's hard when there's peer pressure. Like, I'm not naive to think like, oh, I'm going to have this conversation and then they're going to go off with their friends and be like, I'm the only one not drinking.
I know.
That's a really hard thing to do. And it's tough, but it's just my job is to let them know what is happening in your brain, what are the consequences, and so that they can make a decision that's best for them. But yeah.
Now, as you're someone that obviously, you openly have already shared you struggle with your own social anxiety, ADHD, your anxieties and whatnot. How has it been for you now since making that decision to go alcohol free? Like, how has that journey now look like for you being here?
Yeah. So there's a lot of great things that have happened since I've stopped drinking alcohol. But I would say that is the hardest thing for me, is the social piece, because one of the things I've had to do is when I do feel tempted or I feel more stressed, then I know if someone's inviting me in a group setting where there's going to be drinking, that I'm most often going to say no, unfortunately. And then that leaves me feeling very lonely. Like, there's been times in the last 2.5 years since I stopped drinking that I've had to like be off by myself, and I'm sitting in a parking lot crying because I feel lonely, But then what I do is I reach out to, like, I've called my dad, I've called my brother, like someone that I feel comfortable with, my husband, whoever it is, and I just kind of get that comfort for them. But that's been the hardest thing to navigate, is that social piece. And when I am in a setting when people are drinking, when I first stopped drinking, I would have a cocktail or something so that I at least felt a part of the group. But it wasn't doing much for the anxiety that I was experiencing, So I think just overall, all the work that I've put into healing and managing my anxiety, that's helped, a big difference. It's not what I'm doing in the moment, really. Like, when I'm in that social situation, it's everything that I've done leading up to that helps calm my anxiety in the moment. But that's been the hardest thing to navigate, is the social piece for me.
I appreciate you being like honest about that, because I think there's like, it's something really comforting and like connective to hear that, like it still doesn't make everything just sunshine and rainbows easy. Like, you still, it's like, it's kind of like choose your hard.
Exactly.
Like, choose your hard of going the route with alcohol and everything that comes with that, or choose your hard of, okay, well, now I have to navigate this through like different ways, right? And it's like, obviously, like, we know which route might be the better route, obviously.
Yeah, of course.
But it doesn't mean it's just easy either way. Like, they're still going to have like challenges that are going to present itself no matter what direction that you have to go. And like, that just shows that like healing and the things that are best for you, just because something is the best thing for you doesn't mean it's still just going to always be like the most easiest thing for you either.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I sit with that and I think about that a lot. But yeah, it's definitely not easy. And I've had people even come up to me and they're like, oh, you stopped drinking, you must feel so much better. And when I first stopped drinking, I was like, actually, I don't feel better. I was like, I'm pretty anxious right now, so thanks. But yeah.
You won't, right?
So I'm like, yeah, I feel great. Like, but it's like, no, I don't feel better. It actually took a lot of work because I was using alcohol as something to cope with. So it wasn't just that I stopped drinking and then I felt better. I still had to do the work to heal. But yeah, it's hard work. But I also want to say it is the best thing, like, decision that I have made. Like, I don't regret that, and I will choose that hard over going back to drinking because I know how, like, how much of an impact it was having on my life that I didn't want. So yeah, I would choose this hard any day.
100%. And you were saying too, like, you have done the work and there's things that you have done. So for someone listening that maybe like is curious about what that is, or like steps that they could take, kind of say that they were like in a similar position of where you were at one point, what are other things they can do to get that relief, right? Or other things they can do to work through like the different things that they might be feeling, whether it is in social settings or just even the day-to-day with overthinking.
I think just getting to know yourself very well is a good place to start, and having an understanding of why you are choosing whatever it is that you're choosing. Like, let's say alcohol and they're wanting to stop doing that, or they just have anxiety and they're trying to work through whatever it is. It's just trying to understand like where it's coming from. And if you can't understand that through, educating yourself or reading, listening to podcasts, then maybe working with someone too, like a therapist. I've worked with therapists in my past, and that's something that's been helpful. It's not something that once you work with a therapist, it's like I always have to work with a therapist. Sometimes it's just in certain seasons of your life, and that's something that I've done. And it's the practicing of it. I had to take a really good look at what is going on in my life day to day and what decisions I'm making. So putting like, what do I want in life kind of at the top. And like I was saying earlier, just going backwards and trying to figure out, okay, these are my goals. This is what I want. Like, I don't want to drink anymore. I want to be able to manage my anxiety without drinking. So how do I get there? And sometimes it is working with a therapist to help you support, that. Maybe it's working with a psychiatrist. Maybe it is medications as a tool. So it's really just trying to figure out what goals you have, and then, educating yourself, becoming very aware of who you are and what you are. And sometimes you need help to be able to do that too, and working with someone.
I think that is the biggest piece. So like you said, getting to know ourselves. I think that we overlook that sometimes because we're looking at what everyone else is doing. We think that, again, going back to the word should, that's what we should be doing. And I feel like oftentimes the biggest piece we miss is getting to know who we are and what we need, because what we need might look different than someone else. That's why, I mean, obviously you're going to have people that will always give you their thoughts and opinions and this, that, and the other. But until you really take a deeper look and be honest with yourself about kind of like where you at, where you struggle, and like what you might need, I feel like you're kind of always going to be like in this rat race of just trying to chase what worked for person XYZ instead of for yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, and I look at that too when it comes to alcohol. Like, and I'm not someone who's like, no one should drink alcohol.
Right.
It's like, that's fine. Like, if that's your choice and you're managing your life very well and you're not using it as a way to cope, then that's totally fine. People use it to celebrate, to socialize, in a very healthy way sometimes. So it's definitely their choice. But for me, when I would look at that, I'd be like, well, why can they, drink and have it all together, and then I can't. But the reality is I have to accept that. Like, that's not me. Like, I can't do that. And so I have to do something different than what they're doing. And then I made that choice. Like, I looked at my lifestyle habits and what I was doing, and I'm like, okay, I have to cut this out because it's really not healthy for me. It's actually making my ADHD symptoms worse. It's making my anxiety worse. I'm getting relief for an hour and then I'm suffering for 3 days. It's like, what is that? I'm like, yeah, so I agree with that. It's what works for someone. And sometimes you just have to accept it. It's just, that's the reality of it.
Yeah, yeah. I always like to kind of like go on those conversations and really like highlight those, just whether it's you I talk to or anyone else on here, because I will always say this, that things aren't black and white in your journey.
Yeah.
Whether that's your health, mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally, I don't care what category it is, things aren't black and white. And I think it's important to have these conversations to, one, the vulnerability in sharing our stories so people can not feel alone and know that there are other people that probably do struggle in similar ways that they do, but also knowing that the journey from point A to B isn't going to be linear all the time. Like, we can educate, we can give the tools, the information, we can have the conversations, we can share. But at the end of the day, it's being able to like still be honest with like your own journey. Like, all the tools are there, but just because yours doesn't look like someone else's doesn't mean it's wrong.
Yeah. Yeah. And just to kind of touch on to what helped me when I decided to stop drinking was that first summer, I would do little things if I was out, then I'd try to drink a cocktail to feel
Yeah.
like I'm still a part of the group and things like that. And that was something that was helpful, but I would say no. So learning to say no, that's not easy.
That's a big one.
That's a tough one, but I had to say no during certain situations to protect myself and what my goals were, what I wanted for my life. But I would read a lot of books from women who actually already went through what I went through. And so it's what you're saying about listening to those conversations, whether it's a podcast or books. I read a lot of books about women who were struggling with alcohol and then stopped drinking. And it's like, I want to know what helped them, So I was kind of like borrowing hope, like, okay, I could do this because they've done it and they're almost showing me the way. So that was helpful for me. And then just having a support system too. So people that I could call that would bring me comfort. Like I had said, my dad, my brother, my husband, my mom, those people in my life, my sister-in-law, like I have a great support system. And when I stopped drinking, I actually thought one of the biggest fears that I had when I stopped drinking was the social piece, that I thought people wouldn't accept it, that things were really going to change with, who I was going to hang out with. And even though it has changed in a way, I also was met with a lot of support and people were understanding and no one gave me a hard time. And they were just like, okay, she's not drinking, like cool kind of thing. And that actually surprised me. And that was a pleasant surprise, I should say. But I really have a great group of friends and family that support me. So yeah, that's important.
I do think the environment does make like a big difference. Well, not I think, I know it does. Like
Yeah.
whether it is like your friends, your family, like you even said though, like even just like the books you read, the podcasts you listen to. I think we overlook that. Like even like I know sometimes people just like feel so alone in certain things in their life that they're navigating. But like you said, it's going on kind of like finding that energy. And that could be as simple as like hearing stories or like
Yeah.
absorbing things from people that can relate to where you're at and almost be like a mentor, like a guiding light, or like you said, kind of like a beacon of hope, like in whatever season that you're going through.
Yeah. Yeah, especially if you don't have that in your inner circle, because no one was just like, oh, we're not drinking anymore. Okay,
Yeah.
cool, let me join you. They're like, no, I'm going to still
Yeah,
have
or-
my drinks,
Or
So I'm like, okay, well, I have to find something, some type of community, some type of support
Yeah.
from, and that was a way for me. And it also was something to fill my time too. So I'm like listening to books instead of going out drinking, so
Yeah.
that was something that was a good distraction.
Yeah, I'm 100%. I mean, that's why I'm always encouraging people to kind of like seek out that energy. And if there's anything or anyone in your life that is like kind of weighing you down or like keeping you from those things, I think it's being able, like you said, to say no and to say like, or really so far what I'm trying to say is to have those boundaries. Boundaries is the word I was thinking of. And I was
Yes,
like, what's
yeah.
the word I'm looking for that everyone says all the time?
Yeah.
The one that we all need to work on. But it's true though. It's like, there's something I always say. It's one of the biggest things. It's just being in my own truth here. There's I've always been like on like a Bible verse that was very applicable to me about just kind of like how we're like the vine in our life and how like we release the things that are weighing us down, right? And we prune the branches that are basically, the things in our life that are feeding us, that are helping us grow, helping us evolve, helping us get more into like our purpose or in like the best version of ourselves. Like what are those things in my life that I need to nurture and grow, and anything that's keeping that vine from growing and being prosperous, like what are the things I need to release? And that's something that I sit in a lot of different seasons of my life. And I know this is kind of a little bit off topic of there, but I do think it can all tie in together. It's just like, what are the things in your life that are kind of holding you back or keeping you from getting there? And it could be people, relationships, yourself, your own thoughts, the narratives that you have, the perception of yourself, day-to-day choices, actions, thoughts, all these things. And I kind of take inventory of that in myself, honestly, almost like every few weeks. Like kind of like, where am I at in my life? And kind of like being honest, well, what's keeping me from like continuously having the vine of myself grow versus what's keeping me dying, if you will, the vine to die.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think that's really powerful.
Yeah.
And the self-reflection too that you
Yeah.
have is so important. And I would definitely encourage more people to take that time and reflect on every few weeks, like what's going on in their life.
100%.
Because it's that
Yeah.
slowing down piece,
Yeah.
like no one wants to slow down and take the time to do that, but it's an important piece for
Yeah.
growth.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I do like how you reference, like your faith, and
Yeah.
I think that's a really important piece too, especially for me. Like I didn't grow up religious.
Yeah.
And when I stopped drinking alcohol, I was like, I can't do this on my own. Like I
Yeah.
needed something. And then I started going to church,
Yeah.
and then I was going to Bible study, and I built a community there.
Yeah.
And that has strengthened me so much because
Yeah.
it's like, I don't have to do this alone. Like I can build this, it's like the spiritual
Yeah.
thing, I can build that. I can build a relationship with God, and I can build a community around that too, with other like members, like-minded people. And that was really, really helpful for me. So, yeah.
So I don't know why that made me emotional, and I wasn't trying to get. I was listening to you, and it made me. I don't know. I think it's like important when we can like talk about those things. I feel like sometimes when you're just like going through things that are just really just hard or difficult, and like I know what it's like to be in just spaces where it's just like you just feel lost. Like I've had anxiety take over my life in so many things, and there was even a recent situation in my life where it's just, I have certain things that will like flare up my anxiety, if you will, like all my triggers, my alert system will go off, and I just feel like I'm like back in the hole again. Like my mind will just like, I'll be having like, I mean, not every day is gonna be perfect, but I'll be having like a high, I'm like, oh yeah, life's going great. Then like something boom will happen, something will happen in my life that it's just like, I feel like I can't control my anxiety again. I feel like it's really interesting when I get in those like fight or flight responses. It's something that I have been working through when I'm in those spaces. It's like, my body will automatically just like shut down. And it's like, I'm trying to work on how I'm controlling that. It's been this way for years. It's like, you kind of just get stuck in fight or flight, and your body just like goes through this system of like, okay, well, here we are. Your heart's going to start racing. You're going to get like the brain fog. You're going to have cotton mouth or whatever it is. Like I start going through all the things, and it's just like this depletion after of like, kind of like, after you go through that. But it's just like every time like I kind of like go through those spaces, it's just kind of like reminding myself, like, like when you said earlier, it's like telling yourself you're going to be fine, you're going to get through it. But then also like, my faith or different things in my life has just been really big things to like get me through different things, reminding me, even that was just like a small example, but even when I do go through like harder things or different things of this nature, like I always know I'm going to find my way back at some point.
Yeah.
I don't know if that any made sense. That was such a trail off there, but
I mean,
take what you want from it.
I think that's so great, and it's so deep too, and it reminds me of, for me, like when I started going to church and building that community, it was over a year later when I did lose my job. I was laid off, and what I did the night before, because they gave me a little heads up. That was, they scheduled me with HR and, the person who terminated me.
Yeah.
So the night before it happened, what I did is, before this would have wrecked me, but my son was home, and I just said, "Can you pray with me?" And we just went in my closet and we sat down, and I prayed that, this conversation was going to go well. I knew someone was probably going to lose their job, and that could have been me, or it could have been someone that was under me because I was the director. And I was just saying, like, I know that if I lose my job, that we're going to be okay. God's going to provide for us, even if it's in a different way than we're used to, and my son was just there with me. And then I even said, whoever's going to lose their job, I just pray that it's someone that's going to be impacted the least financially. And whether that's me or not, including me, I meant it. And I just put my full faith in God. And just, if I didn't have that, and I went into that meeting with so much peace, and I was accepting whether it was me, and I really didn't want it to be anyone else, because I knew it was going to be hard on them, and I cared about my team so much. So it worked out. Like, I'm so glad that it was me, because it led me to where I am, and it really was a blessing. But I don't know where I would have been if that would have happened to me, and I didn't have like God on my side, and I wasn't praying for that.
Yeah. I just think it's so crazy though how that happened, and then here you are opening up your own space. And then I remember you saying earlier there was a time you wanted to do it, but it wasn't the right time then. I remember you said you had put it on pause. Yeah. I just think it's kind of to bring that full circle. Earlier in this combo, you were looking to open up your own space. You had to put life on pause. You had some things you were figuring out probably wasn't the right time. Yeah. Well, then you kind of had no choice but to start it because you got forced. Yes. I feel like that's how like life works. Like I feel like sometimes we like pray for things, we hope for things, and it may not always happen the way that we think it will, or how it again, how we think it should look, but then kind of sometimes it's abrupt, like, well, here you go. Yeah. And then, but look you now, but look how much happier you are now doing what you're doing.
I know, I'm so much happier. And I could have easily just went for another job.
Right.
But I was like, no, I actually want to build something, because when I got laid off, like, I had a perfect performance review. Yeah. I built wonderful relationships. People like were wonderful to me there. But it was a financial decision that they had to make. Like, I was the most expensive provider that they had. We were overstaffed. So from a business standpoint, I understand how they got there, and I don't have hard feelings, over it, because it also opened doors for me too. But I never wanted to be in another position where I don't have options for one. And for two, like, I'm going to build something that's for me, something that I could be proud of. And no one's going to tell me whether I have a job or not anymore. I just wanted to build that and also to show other women who that was the most stressful time in my life, those last 4 months leading up to that. And I made it through and I'm continuing to make it through, so I do want to build that space where I can have those conversations and also encourage, like, I know you're in the thick of it, but there could be something on the other side. So let's figure out how to get there,
Yeah.
So.
Have you seen people walk through your door and I guess just like so other people can hear it that really have made like a big transition or like life turnaround from like doing the work that like you and them have done together?
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, my work it could be very stressful, but it is so rewarding.
You do a lot, girl. Yeah.
And this is one of the things I love about outpatient psychiatry is because I worked in a higher level of care. So I worked in residential, I worked in partial hospitalization, and I would never see the outcome of all their hard work and all the work we did together. Like, I would see obviously what they were accomplishing there, but like to live outpatient back in their lives and their day to day, I missed that opportunity. So I didn't get to see that. So this has been even more rewarding for me to be in this space. So yeah, I see it and I love it.
For someone to get to the other side though, like it does take work.
It does. It's all
Yeah.
work. I love how you said just choose your heart. It's so true. But yeah, it's not easy.
Yeah.
But most things that are, worth anything aren't easy to get to.
Yeah.
It does require hard work.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing too. It's like we want to just like snap our fingers. And I know I keep kind of reiterating the same things, but I do that on purpose on these conversations. I want people to hear me say the same thing 20 times in a row. So it kind of like gets embedded in their head.
Yeah.
But again, like we said, you got to choose your heart. You got to do the things. And I like people to hear whether it's like been your journey and like your, like, in my opinion, success story, I would like to say, from getting to where you once were to where you are now, but then also saying like people that you've had come through your door, like you may come in one version of yourself, but you can leave as another, but it's like, are you willing to choose that hard? Mm-hmm. Or are you going to go back and choose the other hard again because this other hard that you had was now too hard? Because there's always going to be some sort of hard. It's just what are you going to do in that meantime of, that type of stuff.
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
Yeah. Yep. And I think that is the cool thing though. Like it is your life and you get to choose. Like it is your choice. You can figure it out like what you want to do. And you can make the changes. But yeah.
I wanted to ask this too, just because like I know it's kind of just like a basic question, but like for people listening, even if someone's maybe they're not in a space right now where they are working with a psychiatrist or like a therapist or XYZ, what are some things that us as women can do just on the daily to support our nervous system?
I would start by figuring out what's causing the disruption. Like, what is causing you to feel dysregulated? Is it a job? Is it a relationship? Is it, an undiagnosed mental condition, a physical condition, whatever it is? Start there, figure that out if you can. If you can't, trying to work with someone else, to help you figure that piece out. And then just take a look at your lifestyle habits, like what's happening there. So trying to remove the things that are not helpful, include more things that are helpful. But things that can help regulate your nervous system is making sure that it's the lifestyle habits too, making sure you're nourishing your body, you're staying hydrated, you're exercising. Exercise is a huge piece to help regulate your nervous system, making sure that you're getting enough sleep. The quality of your sleep matters because that's where we're actually healing our bodies is during rest and sleep. And then having some sort of practice, whether it's meditation, mindfulness practice, breath work. Breath work is my go-to. Like that is what I do. I love breath work. The episode we were just talking about, Jamie was on your episode not too long ago. So if no one's listened to that, definitely take a listen because she's amazing. She's my person, my breath work person. But I do it like on YouTube, but I make it a practice. I do it almost every day. And if I'm very stressed, I do it more because I know it helps. Yeah. So those types of things, definitely having some sort of practice. I know for me, meditation, I like guided meditation, but that's not my go-to. So it's just trying to figure out what works for you. Because I've had so many people like, I suck at meditation. I hate meditation. Like it actually makes them more anxious. And I'm like, well, it's not for you then. Like, let's figure out what's for you, but having some sort of practice.
We had talked about this in our last conversation because I remember I remember you talking a lot about sleep, which we all need to work on that. I woke up today like yawning, walking in here. I was like, Jen's going to yell at me. But I remember that from last time we had talked about sleep. But I remember too, something you had said was like how gratitude journaling didn't always just like work for you. And I feel like there's always this thing of like, okay, like you talk to people, okay, it's do the meditation, then go do your gratitude journaling every morning. And for a lot of people, that just like doesn't like work. So that's why I like to hear maybe different angles of things that people could do to like maybe start their day or even throughout their day. Because it's not always realistic for someone to get up with their lives, have like 20, 30 minutes, sit on the table and start journaling and doing this whole routine. So if someone doesn't have that time, I mean, what is something else they could do?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think breath work is one of those things, or breath exercises. For me, I try to do a 20-minute one, and I include that every day, but some people just don't have that time. And doing a quick exercise can have huge like benefits for your nervous system too. So, you know, just something quick there. But yeah, like you're mentioning, for when I'm talking to someone and we're trying to figure out what's going to be the most helpful, and you can go online and Google mindfulness activities, and then they'll give you tons of them, you know, so it's just trying to figure that out. And when someone says like that mindfulness, for an example, they're like, it's not for me, it's not working, it's not helpful. Then if it's causing you to be more anxious doing it every single time and you're just really frustrated with it, then that's not the goal. Like, we need to figure out something else. But if you're just feeling a little uncomfortable or don't feel like it's helping, my suggestion is keep going, like keep trying it. Because people will fall off too soon. They're like, this isn't working right now. But it's, well, let's keep trying because you are going to get benefits from that. But there's so many different meditations too. You know, it's the guided one always works better for me because I'm not going to sit in my own thought. Like, I'm going to be so distracted.
I need
I'm like,
that. My mind wanders.
Yeah.
I can't focus. Like, I'm similar to you. Like, I cannot focus on that. I'll just sit there and I'll be like, what?
Yeah, I know. And then walking in nature, just listening to like calming music, that's another form of meditation. So just being grounded in nature. So little things like that.
I don't even think about that as meditation. I feel like people think that meditation has to be you sitting there like kumbaya, which is like not it. Because it's like, I love going on walks in nature. That always helps me. But like, I don't always even think about that as meditation. But like, it is.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if you're not distracted talking on the phone or whatever, but if you're like really connecting with your surroundings and you're taking it all in, then that's a form of meditation. Being present.
Yeah. I think that's like the thing, is just like knowing it can like look different. And I guess like another quick end off here before we close out, like, I guess ways to just like ground yourself and being present. I think that's the really hard thing, especially for anxious people and overthinkers. Like, being able to be present is something I've really always had like a hard time with, because I feel like my mind's always thinking about the next thing or my to-do list. I think it's part of being an entrepreneur. Like, I start my day when I write 20 million things I have to get done. So it's like I'm always thinking about the next thing, and instead of just being present in the one task at a time, or even things that maybe I enjoy too, it's like I'm thinking about the next thing that I have to do. So it's like, how do we find ways to like anchor just like into the moment when our mind wants to go everywhere else? Yeah.
I mean, that's a practice.
I know.
That is definitely a practice, but it's also something where, like, I still struggle with being present in the moment. I don't know that that's ever going to go away, but what is helpful is when I catch myself doing those things where my mind's wandering or I'm thinking about something else when I do want to be present. It's, if you're not aware of it and your mind is wandering, then there's nothing you're going to be able to do about it. But if you can catch it and you're like, okay, no, let me come back, focus on what's going on, you know? So it could be something that you say to yourself, like you have a certain word, even if it is presence, like presence, present, you know, it's just like, once you catch it, you say that word, and then you lock in like to whatever you're doing so that you can ground yourself more. Sometimes it's maybe doing a quick breath exercise to re-ground you. If you're very anxious, then it's doing the grounding exercises. You know, you can, one thing for me, like if I'm ruminating on something, that I found the most helpful is just saying words. So I'm just looking around the room, pointing out anything. It doesn't require a lot of thought or anything like that, but it brings me back into the present in the moment. So I'm like, chair, microphone, glass, like whatever it is, you know? So I'm just saying that until my mind stops. So that can help stop a like ruminative thought loop, and then just bring you back into the present. So there's lots of different things. But
close out on that, because I think that, like you said again, getting to know you more and finding what works for you. So, like, you know, I'm glad that we were able to kind of like share different things for people today that even just they could try. And to some people that maybe think it's simple, because I know they're like, oh, that's corny. I'm gonna look at that table and say, look, there's a table. Well, it works because I've done it. So it's like, I know the things that seem so basic. That's why people like look it up. Oh, I'm not like, or look over it. Like, I'm not going to just do the breath work or the meditation or the journal. I'm not going to go on a walk. It sounds so stupid. And then until they do it, then they realize that the things that actually work are the most simple things.
And I was that person too. I was like, I'm not even wasting my time. I'm like, no, waste your time. Like,
I know.
It's actually a good thing.
I know.
Yeah, it really does help.
So thank you for saying all that. But to close out here, Jen, where can people connect with you and find you?
Yeah, so my website, landingwellpsychiatry.com, is a good place just to learn more about me. I also have resources. I have website suggestions, book recommendations on there. If you want to work with me too, you can book an appointment if you're in Ohio. We can meet there. Social media. You know, I'm trying to be consistent, but I'm a little ADHD. We're starting my business and like trying to figure that out. Yeah. So I'm not very consistent, but I got some stuff on there. You can backtrack, Instagram, TikTok, Jen Lander, you know, so you can find me there.
Okay. No, so, I know I always have to yell at everyone to like post on their social media more. Everyone that comes on here, we'll work on that.
Okay.
But I'll tag all your stuff in the show notes and everyone will be able to connect with you. But thank you again for second time around coming and having this conversation with me today.
Thank you. I appreciate it so much. I loved being here. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll see you in the next one.